Hello, people of the internet. How's everyone doing? Steve from Insight Video Marketing here. Hope everyone's well. So a couple of weeks ago, I posted a picture of my two computer screens that I've got set up at home at the moment after moving everything from the office into the home, and it had a picture of the working timeline from our project Kilimanjaro, the long way. And a couple of people commented on the picture and said kind of how scary it looked. One person I think was they used Premiere Pro a bit, which is the piece of software I use for editing. Another person just sort of saw it and just, how do you navigate that? So I thought it'd be quite fun to jump into that and just sort of explain how I've got it set up and what it all means, what the language of my editing is. And sort of give you a bit of an insight into my life and my editing life, really. So here we go, let's have a quick look. So here it is, here's the timeline. And yes, at first glance, it looks quite scary, doesn't it? There's lots and lots of things going on here. So let's just have a quick look in and dive in and demystify this for you. So first of all, let's have a look on these. So on the left-hand side here, you can see I've got some video layers going up and some audio layers which go downwards. And each of these have a different function for me. So on this video one here, I've got all the footage that I shot, which I've included in the film, which I shot on the Sony a7 III, which is the camera I was using to film. So that goes all the way through the project, and every single shot down here is from that same camera, the a7 III. I've then got above that what's called an adjustment layer, which is a see-through layer on which I can put effects, and it will affect every single clip below it in the same way. So it just means that I can, so for example, what I'm using this for at the moment is for color correction. So manipulating the colors of the video and the way the kind of colors come across in the video. Just to give you an example of that, if I switch that on and off, you can see, if you look at this happy looking man here, if I turn it off, you can kind of see the color changes slightly. So it's just a way of manipulating that color. But what it means is that I can put the same color changes to every single clip below it without having to copy and paste the kind of colors, going along. So it's just a time saver basically. So that's what's on video 2. Then video 3 is everything I shot on the adventure on a GoPro. The way that the footage from the GoPro comes out of the camera is very different to the way the footage comes out of the camera on the a7 III. It looks very different, so you can't put the same color correction on both of them and expect them to look the same. So I basically separate them out so that I can very quickly go through the project and see that, right, if I need to find a specific GoPro shot, I know that I'm looking for it on video 3 layer. If I want to find an a7 III shot, I'm looking for it on the video 1 layer. So it's just a really good way of visually seeing what shots I've got where and looking for things in the timeline. And then in the above that as well, we've got some titles. So if you have a look on the video here, you can see video 4. It's all different titles. So February 23rd. This one here represents the actual title of the film, and those kind of those fade in and out as and when they're needed. These little dots here represent, they're called keyframes. So every time I make a change to either the volume of the audio, or in this case the opacity or the visibility of the video footage and graphics, you can see they start at the top here, and as time progresses, there's another one down here. You can't quite see it, but it's just there in the corner. You can see it just slowly fades out. So these are just ways of me fading things in and out. And then at the very top there, you've got an overlay, which essentially, you can't see anything on the screen at the moment. Here we go. It kind of just changes the aspect ratio. So if I turn that off, you see that it just reveals a little bit more of the shot. It's a sort of style artsy thing. Some films it works for, some films it doesn't. So I like to use that sometimes if it's appropriate for the film, and I felt it was for this one. So let's move on to what's perhaps the scarier part, and that's the audio, because there's a lot of different things going on here. And yeah, it's all kind of laid out in a way that I understand. So the first 2 tracks are interview footage, so voiceover footage, interview footage. So when someone's talking in the film, I know that it's going to be on one of those 2 tracks. The reason I've got it on 2 tracks is because each track has its own specific audio effect. So, you know, we do a lot of work on making sure the audio sounds as good as it possibly can and is of a sort of consistent level throughout the entire film, so the volume's not jumping up and down and you can hear everything clearly. And you know, you're not listening to the film and it's at one level and then suddenly someone comes in and talks really loud and it just, you know, shocks people and stuff. So everything's nice and level. So we've got an effect that goes across the entire track on each of these. And the effects I needed for these bits of audio were very different to the effects I needed for the audio in the rest of the film, just because of the way it was recorded originally. So I got them on 2 tracks. So getting the audio nice and level and you know, ready to be heard properly and consistently, really important. And that's one way I can do that. Then next thing I've got, the next 2 tracks are music. So I've got tracks for music here, tracks for music here, here, and here. And again, these are kind of, yeah, different tracks. They've got the same effects on them, but it's sometimes the songs overlap and things like that. So you can see there's a bit here where the music kind of overlaps. So it's nice to have it on 2 separate tracks, so I can kind of play with that a little bit as I go. You know, some films are short enough to only have 1 song in it, so we'd only have 1 audio track there. Oh, look, there's me popped up on screen. That wasn't planned, by the way. It's just a coincidence. And then below that, the tracks below that are sound effects and sound design. So these are really important. So these are things like the sound of wind and rain, the sound of people's footsteps, the sound of people kind of talking in the background when there's shots of people relaxing in the evenings and stuff like that. And that just gives a whole another level of dynamics to the film. And without it, it can sound quite flat and unrealistic. And putting these kind of sound effects in, just like I say, kind of just bring everything alive a little bit. You know, you've got the sound of the monkeys jumping through trees and stuff like that. And it just, yeah, it kind of brings the senses alive a little bit more. And that's kind of it. And so these are kind of spread out through, and the volumes are controlled, and everything's fading out very, very slowly. So all the kind of fades I've got in the music and stuff like that, really, really careful to make sure that those fades aren't really, really sudden, and there's no massive change in volume that's noticeable. All of these fades are designed to be very subtle, and so the viewer doesn't notice it happening, but it makes a slow difference to the film subconsciously. And there we are. So that's the timeline, and I know it probably still looks scary, but it's kind of like a language, you know. Looking at these are called waveforms, and I can look at this waveform for this song and see very quickly what the song's likely to sound like, if it's going to have a lot of dynamics in it. And so I kind of read these waveforms almost, and before I even hear the song, I can kind of get a very good idea of what the song's going to be like and whether it's going to be useful, which is great for when I'm looking for music for a film, because you get a page full of songs that are possible, and they've all got a picture of the waveform, and I can very quickly dismiss songs if the waveform doesn't look right. So yeah, it's like a language, and like with any language, the more you practice it, the more you learn it, the more you build upon it, the easier it becomes to learn. So that's it, that's the timeline. I hope you enjoyed having a little insight into what I get up to. If you've got any further questions, of course, let me know. And also, if you're looking to grow your business and reach your kind of business goals, and you're thinking about using video to do that, feel free to give me a call. There's a lot of options, and this is the perfect time to plan. And we've got a really great kind of strategy process that we work with our clients for. So if you're interested in investing in video and you want to have a chat with us, feel free to get in touch. There's a link in the description below where you can book a call with myself to talk about how we can get the ball rolling. So until then, enjoy the rest of your day and speak to you soon. Cheers.